Good evening. I'm Tim Carey, and I'm excited to welcome you to the Coalition for Hispanic Issues in Progress 15th Annual Candidates Night. CHIP's mission calls us to promote the political process, and this event is one way that we expose the community to the issues and candidates that will be on the ballot. We'll begin the evening by hearing from representatives on behalf of issues 5, 6, 7, and 8. We'll then hear from our judicial, state, and state candidates. And lastly, we'll go into our roundtable session where we'll hear from our congressional candidates, Ohio House of Representative candidates, Ohio Senate, and Lorain County Commissioner candidates. I'd like to ask you all to silence your cell phones and be respectful of all the speakers. I'd also like to remind the candidates that we're excited to hear what you will do to meet the needs of our community and not what your opponent is doing poorly. I now have the opportunity to introduce our moderators for the evening. We have the Director of the Lorain County Arts Council, Mr. Antonio Barrios. We also have Mary Santiago. She's a board member of the Lorain Health Board and the Vice Chair of the Ohio Commission on Latino Affairs. And we have Mr. David Arredondo, Vice Chair of the Lorain County Republican Party. Now I'll introduce Mary to introduce the issue candidates, or the speakers for the issues.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Mary Santiago. I'm your moderator, one of your moderators for this evening. And the first issue is issue 5, Lorain County Board of Mental Health, and that will be Mr. Mr. Charlie Neff.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here in this building that actually houses one of the programs funded by the Board of Mental Health. El Centro operates a money management program for us that's very successful in keeping our clients in their homes because we've got somebody to manage their funds so they don't get misused, so they have food and clothing and a place to live. I'm here to seek your support for issue number 5, which is a renewal of a $1.2 million levy for mental health services in Lorain County. This levy was originally passed in 1985 and has been renewed until this point. This levy costs the owner of a $100,000 home $3.06 a month. So it's not a terribly expensive levy, but it generates about 49% of the revenue that the Board of Mental Health has to spend on services here in Lorain County. Now, we contract through 18 different agencies as well as regional hospitals to provide mental health services. And in the last fiscal year, our system provided clinical care to 10,500 residents of Lorain County. And a third of those were under the age of 18. And it's crucial for them and for our community that we're able to keep the resources in place to be able to continue to fund these services. So I thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope we can count on your support on Election Day for issue number 5. So thank you.
The next issue is issue 6, Lorain County Children's Services. Mr. Scott Ferris.
Thank you very much for having us attend. On behalf of the board, staff, and foster families and volunteers of Lorain County Children's Services, I respectfully ask for your support of issue 6, the Children's Services Levy. Issue 6 is a $1.5 million renewal with a 0.3 increase on the November ballot. This levy is essential to continuing current operations at Lorain County Children's Services and currently provides 51% of our operating budget. Lorain County Children's Services responds to approximately 4,100 reports of child abuse or neglect each year, which is up 300 from 4 years ago, the last time we asked you to renew our levy. During that same time period, Children's Services has experienced a $2.7 million reduction in funds available to care for our community's maltreated children. This is a 23% reduction in federal funding a 17% reduction in state funding, and an 8% reduction in the funds generated by the current levy. Our commitment to quality and continuous improvement is only surpassed by our commitment to the abused and neglected children we serve. Our practice, services, and initiatives are top-notch. Of our current 113 staff, 10% are bilingual, further demonstrating our commitment to being accessible to all families in Lorain County. We take our responsibility to our community and to our clients seriously, and we welcome the opportunity to ask the taxpayers for their continued support. This is a very important time in our community as we balance the critical need of protecting our abused and neglected children, while at the same time respecting the right of families as they deal with complex issues. The 1.8 mil renewal levy will generate $10.7 million compared to the current 8.9. On a $100,000 home, the homeowner will pay an additional 88 cents per month to continue the current level of services to our community's abused and neglected children. Lorain County Children's Services is a critical part of the community safety net for children. In order to continue to meet our obligations and to help our community keep its commitment to the well-being of its children, I ask that you endorse and support Issue 6 and vote yes on Children's Services.
And now for Issue 7, Lorain County Crime Lab, Drug Lab, Emmanuel De Leon.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all of you to be with me here tonight. The county is seeking supplemental money from the voters through the passage of Issue 7, the Crime Drug Levy. It's a .08 mil levy, projecting to raise $490,000 a year during its 5-year term. The levy would cost $2.80 annually per $100,000 in residential homes. The Crime Drug Lab currently operates using money obtained through a continuing levy passed in 1982, which is combined with the Lorain County Drug Task Force. A third of that levy money is used to operate the crime lab, and the remaining 2/3 goes towards the operation of the Drug Task Force. With the money generated from passing this levy, it will continue our operation that we once used to serve our law enforcement agencies, children's services, LACADA, domestic relations court, county juvenile facilities. This will also bring back a fingerprint technician who was just laid off April of this year. Allow us to improve necessary functions, including quick turnaround times, and offset the increasing costs of supplies and standards to do the drug tests. Recent heroin and prescription use and abuse continues to grow in our community and has become an epidemic. We need this levy passed to fight this epidemic. It will allow us to become better equipped to fight the issue of heroin and prescription addiction. The faster we can perform the tests, the faster it would help the prosecutors build their cases more timely. The Lorain County Chiefs of Police Association voted and support this levy. Thank you very much for your listening.
And for our final issue, Issue 8, Lorain County Metro Parks, Brian Goldthrup.
I'd like to thank CHIPS for putting this on tonight. It's a good opportunity to talk to everybody. Lorain County Metro Parks is asking for your vote, your support for levy number 8, issue number 8, so we can continue to provide clean and safe parks. The levy provides 65% of our funding. We believe that we have been fiscally responsible. We have had over 50 years of clean audits. We want to protect what we have and what we've done. 10 years ago, we came to the voters and asked for you to pass the levy, and we promised to put a park in every major community. We've done that, and our goal now is to connect all these parks together, and we're working on a 10-year master plan to do that also. We hope that you support Levy 8, or Issue 8, on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, and now that concludes our issues, and I will be my co-moderator, David Ordonto, to do the second portion.
Thank you very much, Mary. The following candidates who will be speaking are nonpartisan candidates. They will be candidates for the State Board of Education, for the Supreme Court of the State of Ohio, and for the 9th District Court of Appeals. The State Board of Education is comprised of 11 elected members who represent districts throughout the state. There are an additional 8 representatives on the board who are appointed by the governor. Lorain County falls into District Number 2, and that district is comprised of 7 counties extending from Fulton County to the west of Lucas County or Toledo, and all the way east to Lorain County, in between counties such as Huron, Erie, Wood, Ottawa are also part of the district. The candidates for the State Board of Education are Kathleen McGurvey, who is currently serving, Kim Redfern, and Mr. Ray Young. Mr. Young and Redfern have declined the invitation, and speaking for the Office of the Board of Education is Kathleen McGurvey.
Thank you, David. And thank all of you for being here tonight to learn about your candidates. Again, my name is Kathleen McGurvey. I'm the District 2 representative to the Ohio Board of Education. And I'm currently serving, it's my first term, it's a 2-term limit. So I first became interested in education while I was studying for my bachelor's in civil engineering at Cleveland State. And I had a job tutoring, and most of the students I tutored were from urban areas. And it was through that experience of tutoring these students, who, many of whom were really very ill-prepared for college. And this caused me to have an interest and a concern about the education in our state. As David stated, there are 11 districts in the Ohio Board of Education, and I represent District 2. I am the only candidate from Lorain County. The other candidates are from further west. During my second term as a member of the Ohio Board of Education, I will continue to faithfully serve those who have entrusted this duty to me: the parents, the children, and the teachers. And I will also continue to support local control of education. It is really the local boards of education, with input from parents and teachers, who are really best situated to know and understand the students whom they serve. And it is most appropriate for major decisions that aren't required to be done at the state level to really be as close to home as possible, and closer to the parents and the teachers, so that they can weigh in on these important issues. Along with the issue of local control of education, which until recently has been pretty much the law in the state. There are many things that we are told we cannot do at the state level because of local control. But recently, with the adoption of the Common Core standards, this local control has been diminished, and even state control is very diminished as a result of that. But local control is not really the only, I guess I'm getting up against the clock here. Local control is not really the only issue. Of course, academic excellence and academic achievement are also important. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening, and I'd appreciate your vote when you cast your ballot. Thank you so much.
The Supreme Court of the state of Ohio has 2 races this year. The candidates are current Justice Judy French, and she is facing John O'Donnell. Also, current Justice Sharon Kennedy is facing Mr. Tom Latson. The only candidate who has agreed to appear is Mr. Tom Latson.
I appreciate being here. The name is Letson, like Stetson or Jetson, L-E-T-S-O-N. And I'm running for the Ohio Supreme Court. And that would naturally mean I'm a lawyer. And for the last 8 years, I've used that background to serve in the Ohio General Assembly. But actually, my practice of law started 10 years before I graduated from law school, because I was the chairman of the Workers' Compensation Committee for Local 2243 of the United Steelworkers. I am a machinist by trade and a lawyer by profession. And it is just one of the blessings of my life that I've gotten more education than I know what to do with sometimes. Public service is the way that I think I best use that education, that background. One of the things I want to draw to your attention is the fact that the candidates for judicial office are separated. They're down at the bottom of the ballot. The issues that you heard spoken about prior to me standing here are also at the bottom of the ballot. So I would ask you this year, when you go out to do early voting, voting started already on Tuesday, when you go out to do your voting, I would ask you to start at the bottom and work your way back to the top. You will capture all those important issues, such as we've heard about tonight, and then you will find the judicial candidates, because no one really has a greater impact on your life than the people that run your court system. That is a separate branch of the government, and sometimes we forget about it because it sits at the bottom of the ballot. I would ask you to simply go to the back, start at the bottom, work your way back to the top. I'm Tom Letson. I'm running for the Supreme Court, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
The 9th District Court of Appeals is a court that is located in Akron. Currently serving is Justice Judge Eve Belfance. Judge Belfance has a prior commitment and will be here later on in the program. We will give her an opportunity to speak. Her opponent, Julie Schaefer, who was invited, has not responded to the invitation. So at this time, we will then go on to our next forum offices, and these are the offices for the state of Ohio. Those offices include the governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state, the auditor, and the treasurer. And Mr. Antonio Barrios will introduce those representatives who are here to speak on behalf of the candidates for those offices. Mr. Barrios.
The governor's office, and speaking for Ed Fitzgerald, we should have, I believe, Mr. Joel Gleason. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joel Gleason. I'm a longtime Lorain County resident and a teacher for the past 8 years in the Clearview school system, and 1 year prior to that in Lorain City Schools. I come to you tonight to speak to you on behalf of Mr. Fitzgerald, who is running for our governor for the state of Ohio. Ed is running for governor because he believes in our working class families should be getting ahead and not falling behind like they have been these past 3 years. The government, run by Mr. Kasich, has benefited the wealthy and the well-connected, primarily at the expense of the middle class of Ohio. Ed Fitzgerald currently is the Cuyahoga County Executor and former mayor of Lakewood. He's been a county prosecutor, an FBI agent, and most importantly, is a father of 4 children. Ed personally has experienced the day-to-day economic anxiety that is gripping Ohio's working families. Ed Fitzgerald will bring lots of change to our state, and one of them, as I mentioned, I'm a teacher, will be in education. Something that Ed has done in Cuyahoga County is started college savings accounts for his kindergartner entry students there in Cuyahoga County. He puts $100 in every student's name, and as a lot of us know, getting started is half the battle. That is one of the first programs of its kind in the country. As you noticed earlier, we've had many cuts to local government. Here in Lorain County, we've lost $33.8 million in the past 3 years for local government, and $14.6 million for our schools, which has probably created lots more levies that you all have seen. Lastly, please remember Senate Bill 5, something that was started by Governor Kasich and his allies, and we really need to remember that this November when we go to the polls or earlier. Thank you very much. I know Ed would support all of your support.
Speaking on behalf of Governor Kasich will be Mr. Nick Mascati.
Good evening. My name is Nick Mascari. I am from Wellington, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Governor Kasich. In 2011, when Governor Kasich took office, Ohio we were hurting pretty bad. We had lost 350,000 jobs under the previous administration. He also had to put together the first budget for his first administration, and he was looking at an $8 billion shortfall. The previous administration had created a budget using lots of one-time funds that were not going to be available to Mr. Kasich for his budget, including over $4 billion that was supposed to come from the stimulus program to create jobs by building infrastructure, but was used to plug holes in the state budget instead. We also only had 89 cents in the state's rainy day fund. He went to work, and having to make some hard decisions, they did balance the budget, and they eliminated that shortfall, balanced that budget without raising any taxes. In fact, under Governor Kasich, we've cut taxes by over $3 billion, including eliminating the death tax. And that's an important one right there, especially for small business. When a owner of a small business passes away, often for the business or the farm to move on to to his children, there was a huge tax to be paid, and a lot of times the people couldn't keep that business. That death tax has been eliminated. We all have seen an overall 10% income tax cut, and small businesses have also received a 50% tax cut. The Rainy Day Fund now is maxed out and has $1.5 billion in it should we ever fall on hard times again. Under John Kasich's leadership, the size of our state government has also been skinnied down and is at its lowest level in over 30 years. Another thing that he found when he entered office was that if you overpaid your taxes, in previous administrations, the state just kept that money. Governor Kasich thought that was immoral, and he directed the Ohio Department of Taxation to find out who had overpaid their taxes, and he returned over $30 million to people who had overpaid their taxes. I would like to ask you for your vote for Governor Kasich, and thank you for this event tonight.
For the office of Attorney General, Mr. David Pepper will be represented by State House Representative Dan Ramos.
Hello, my name is Dan Ramos, and I'm proud to serve as your state representative in the 56th House District on the western side of Lorain County, including the city of Lorain. I'm here this evening to speak about my friend David Pepper. David Pepper from the city of Cincinnati is running to be your next Attorney General. He has served well in the Cincinnati City Council as well as the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners, where he served as a commissioner. David has always been a strong voice for civil rights and for justice. As a city councilman, he fought hard to improve community relations with the police. Now David Pepper is running to be our Attorney General. He'll fight for working people and safer neighborhoods. David has a plan to crack down on criminals who assault women. David is committed to reform and providing justice for victims. He's committed to making certain that the Attorney General's office is a place where the office is there to serve the people, not to serve partisan ideologies. The current Attorney General spends hundreds of thousands of our tax dollars on issue campaigns such as limiting voting and such as various things in support, fighting things that are happening at the federal level in support of things that are happening in other states. David Pepper wants to use that money and use your precious tax dollars to fight for you, to fight for the citizens of Ohio. I believe that he will be the best candidate for Attorney General. I've known him for a few years. I know that he was active in the campaign against Senate Bill 5, and I know he was here to represent the needs of Ohioans. I'd invite you to please visit davidpepper.com for more information. Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of Attorney General Mike DeWine, we'll call again Mr. Mick Nascari.
I'm here tonight to speak to you on behalf of Attorney General Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine, when he ran for office, he made a promise. One of his biggest promises is he wanted to turn around the Office of Criminal Investigation. Before Mike DeWine took office, the average turnaround for rape kits was over 125 days. He invested money and invested resources to fix this problem. Today, the average turnaround when a rape kit is submitted to the Office of Criminal Investigation is 22 days. And in some urgent cases, it can be turned around in 24 hours. Attorney DeWine also pushed all of our local police departments to send in rape kits that had been sitting in their evidence rooms. There were thousands of them sitting around the state, and women who had been assaulted were not getting justice because these rape kits were going untested. As a result of all of those rape kits now being tested, more than 209 people have been charged with sex crimes, and police have identified more than 40 serial rapists from these results. Mike DeWine has also shut down pill mills across the state and created a heroin unit within the office to combat the deadly effects of drug abuse. More than 125 people, as a result of this new part of the office, have been charged with crimes like trafficking and possession of illegal drugs. He's also working aggressively with local law enforcement to go after human trafficking and put those who force women and children into prostitution behind bars. These are the kinds of things that Attorney General Mike DeWine has done for our community, and I ask you to support him for re-election.
Now we'll talk about the auditor, the state auditor. Speaking on behalf of Mr. John Carney will be Mr. Max Schaefer.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Max Schaefer. I am an employee at the County Auditor's Office here in Lorain County. I want to talk to you tonight about John Patrick Carney, the Democratic candidate for state auditor. First and foremost, Mr. Carney is a family man. He knows the plight of working families all across Ohio. He was the 11th of 12 children in his family, 9 of whom were sisters. So at a young age, he realized he needed to respect women. He also realized at a young age, when his parents told him that they didn't have enough money for him to go to college, that he would have to get a job. And so he had his first job at the tender age of 8 years old. He raised enough money throughout his life to go to college, put himself through college. John Patrick Carney realizes that if you work hard, you can get ahead in life. But what he also realizes is that with the help of a society who believes and invests in public education, you can get a lot farther, a lot faster. Moreover, Mr. Carney has worked across Ohio in the state legislature to promote bipartisanship. In fact, 92% of the bills that he has sponsored in the Ohio General Assembly have been supported by Democrats and Republicans. And in a period of time in Ohio and across the nation where we see increased partisanship, this is truly astounding. The last point I'd like to make is that Mr. Carney believes in transparency and effectiveness when it comes to the state auditor. Currently, we see an administration that is funneling money to underperforming charter schools. Mr. Carney would like to make those charter schools numbers and records available to the public. For those reasons, I would like you to support Mr. Carney in his candidacy for state auditor on November 4th. Thank you.
The next next candidate is Mr. Bob Bridges. Is there someone here to speak on behalf? Okay. And then on behalf of the auditor, David Yost, again, we'll call on Mr. Muscati.
It's me again. Auditor Dave Yost, he's a former county auditor and prosecutor. That makes him uniquely qualified to be auditor of state. And what he's done in his 4 years, well, almost 4 years as auditor, has really been remarkable. As auditor, he's helped to skinny down government from the schoolhouse to the state house, and he's led by example. For example, he lowered the rent, he negotiated lower rent for his office by $1 million, saving the taxpayers that money. He's identified more than $140 million in potential savings for state and local governments in the last 2 years. He's also held public officials accountable, and he's held both Democrats and Republicans accountable. He is about as nonpartisan as you come. Auditor Yost's work has led to more than 80 criminal convictions from people that were abusing our tax dollars. 22 of which, the last gentleman referred to the charter schools, 22 of which came from charter school officials. For example, there's a gentleman named Carl Schei. Auditor Yost noticed a pattern of problem audits around the state involving Mr. Schei. He launched a joint investigation with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney and charged him with embezzling nearly $500,000. Because of Auditor Yost's work, Mr. Schei now sits in a federal prison. He's also found more than $17 million in stolen and misspent public money, and he's held the adults accountable who were cheating the students in the Columbus school systems by fudging their attendance numbers. That mastermind of the Columbus school scandal is now a convicted criminal as a result of Auditor Yost's work. I respectfully ask you to keep Mr. Yost in office and re-elect him this November.
We'll now see about the Secretary of State, Nina Turner, or a representative for Nina Turner. We'll call on Mr. Dan Ramos.
Good evening. I am Dan Ramos, your state representative. I'm here to speak on behalf of State Senator Nina Turner of Cleveland, who's running to be Ohio's next Secretary of State. Senator Turner is running because she believes that voting is a fundamental and important right. She's running to protect that interest that you're tuning into to watch this program today, to make certain that your vote is something that you have and it is something that will be counted. She believes that all eligible Ohioans should have a simple, convenient, and secure election system. She has fought all efforts, and there have been many over the past 4 years, to limit the right to vote, to limit the convenience of voting and the ability of folks to vote, many of which have been championed by her opponent. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, taxpayer dollars, have been spent by the current Secretary of State, her challenger, to limit the right to vote, limit the time people are allowed to vote, and the manners in which people are allowed to make their most fundamental of American rights to take place. Nina has been fighting for your right to vote since she's been in the legislature. Nina has the experience, the qualifications, and the passion to be a Secretary of State who will empower and engage Ohioans at the polls and beyond. Her background includes being an administrator for the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland City Schools, where she helped oversee billion-dollar budgets. She's been a professor at Tri-C, where she's helped students achieve their educational dreams, and she's fought to make sure working families get a fair shake. She fought diligently against Senate Bill 5 when it was in the Senate, and she believes that your right to vote needs to fit in with your responsibilities as a person who is working and as a person who has a family, and that your right shouldn't be infringed simply because you have to be at work or you have to be with your family. I encourage you to visit ninaturner.org, and please vote for Nina Turner on November 4th or before.
And speaking for Mr. John Husted, our Secretary of State, will be Mr. Muscati.
I know you guys are going to get sick of me. Secretary of State John Husted. He was raised in Montpelier, Ohio, and received both his bachelor's and his master's degree from the University of Dayton. And one of the main things that Secretary of State Husted has done is to make Ohio a place where it's hard to cheat, but very easy to vote. As you know, early voting started yesterday, and the election is a month away. None of our neighboring states are you able to start voting yet. John was the first public official, one of John's top priorities as Secretary of State also was to ensure that our military service members have easy access to vote no matter where in the world they've been stationed. In 2011, Husted launched the Military Ready to Vote program for Ohio, and since then, thousands of Ohioans living all across the world who serve in our military have used the program successfully. Because of this effort, Ohio is now recognized, he's been recognized by the Association of the U.S. Army for his work in this area. Ohio is also one of only a handful of states to be named an all-star state by the Military Vote Protection Project. Under Husted's leadership, our voter rolls have also been cleaned up. Over 300,000 deceased voters were on the rolls. Those have now been eliminated, reducing the chance of fraud. John Husted has also rolled out the red carpet to business and job creation in Ohio by cutting the red tape. As Secretary of State, John Husted saved taxpayers over $2.5 million in spending during the 2012 presidential election compared to the 2008 presidential election. That's $2.5 million of our tax money. And also, for the very first time in 2012 and this year, Secretary of State Husted mailed out absentee ballot applications to every eligible voter in the state of Ohio, meaning that you don't even have to leave your house to vote. The right to vote is important, but it's also very easy to vote in Ohio. I ask you for your support to re-elect Secretary of State John Husted.
We now move to the Treasurer's Office, and speaking on behalf of Connie Pilic will be Mr. Dan Ramos.
Good evening. My name is Dan Ramos, and I'm proud to serve as your state representative, and I'm here today to speak about my friend, State Representative Connie Pilic. I know Representative Pilic very well. Our offices were next to each other at the State House, and I can tell you that she is a leader unlike any other in Ohio. She's an Air Force veteran, a state legislator, and a mom. She and I have worked very closely together in the legislature to reduce and repeal some of the unnecessary cuts brought forth by the current administration and majority, to restore those cuts that were made to our police services, our fire services, and other local government services. Connie, by way of background, spent 8 years in active duty in the Air Force, where she served in support of Operation Desert Storm, as well as in West Berlin during the Cold War. She's a 3-time recipient of the Air Force Commendation Medal and earned the rank of captain. I've heard her say many times on the floor, and this is important to me as the son of an airman myself, she's fond of saying, in the Air Force there was no Democratic way or Republican way of doing things, just the right way. That is the type of leadership that Connie would bring to the Treasurer's office. In the legislature, she has been a champion for veterans, knowing firsthand the sacrifices veterans and veterans' families have made on behalf of our country, and worked with both parties to support both veterans and military families, and with bipartisan legislation, make it easier for military families to deal with deployments and help veterans find new jobs when they get home. Connie Pilic believes we need to build an economy that's fair for all Ohioans, which is why she said no to slashing funds for schools and public safety in order to give tax breaks to the wealthy. She fought hard against the huge property tax hikes on tens of thousands of Ohio seniors, voting to eliminate against the elimination of the homestead exemption, which the majority pushed forward. As treasurer, she will be a safeguard to our more than $200 billion in state assets. She worked tirelessly in favor of union families, working hard against Senate Bill 5. I invite you to look at ConniePillich.com for more information, and please support Connie Pillich for State Treasurer. Thank you.
And speaking on behalf of our treasurer, Josh Mandel, will be Mr. Mascari. You should have sat up there.
I probably should have sat up here. Again, my name is Nick Mascari. I'm the Wellington area chairman of the Lorain County Republican Party, and I'm here to speak to you tonight about Treasurer Mandel. Josh Mandel is a veteran himself of the United States Marine Corps, having served on the ground during two tours of duty in Iraq. Under Treasurer Mandel, Ohio's financial ranking when he took office was 43rd. It's now 7th. The changes he made to the office have resulted in that improvement. When he took office, he made a top-to-bottom review of how things worked in the treasurer's office. He turned off cell phones, sold cars, and canceled things like plant watering contracts because he felt they were unnecessary and didn't warrant the use of our tax dollars. He leveraged technology. Checks used to be driven by car from Columbus up to Cleveland and vice versa to be deposited in banks. He instituted e-banking, saving us $100,000. He has led the fight for increased transparency. He put the state salaries of most state workers online so that the public can see them and see what our public servants are being paid. He's also helped local governments on investments. And while the United States government and 14 local government funds were downgraded, his Star Ohio Fund gets a AAA rating. The first OEBF credit upgrade in nearly a decade occurred under Treasurer Mandel's watch over our tax dollars, from AA- to AA+. He's endorsed by the Ohio Society of CPAs. His office has received a clean audit from the Auditor of State for 3 years in a row. He's the only treasurer in the country to receive the Association of Government Accountants Award for Excellence in Financial Management. He's also shrunk his own department, again, saving us money. His office went from 140 budgeted staff to 117. And his office now runs a $6 million surplus out of a $14 million operating budget after 4 years. I urge you and ask you to vote to re-elect Treasurer Josh Mandel this November. And this is the last you'll see of me.
Well, that concludes the portion on the state offices of Ohio. I will call up Mr. Dave Arredondo to continue the next portion.
Thank you, Antonio. As I had stated earlier, Judge Eve Belfance, candidate and sitting judge for the 9th District Court of Appeals, would be here to present her 2-minute statement, and this is Judge Eve Belfance. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Judge Eve Belfance, and I am your current presiding judge in the 9th District Court of Appeals. Boy, I have a lot to cover in 2 minutes, but I'm going to briefly give you a schematic of the 9th District Court of Appeals so you can see what we do. We review the decisions of trial court judges after a trial has occurred. So you see, this is what you usually see on TV when there's a trial going on. Afterwards, though, under our Constitution, everyone has an absolute right to challenge the decision of a trial court judge, and you do that by way of appeal, and that's where our court comes in. I serve as the presiding judge of the 9th District Court of Appeals, and I was elected in 2008. I'm originally born in Summit County. I attended Akron Public Schools, and through working very hard, 3 jobs and scholarships, I was able to attend Yale University and then on to Case Western Reserve School of Law, again through scholarships. I began to practice law 24 years ago, and I discovered my passion in my very first year that I practiced, and that was appeals court work. I went on to become a federal judicial attorney, and then in 2005, I actually sat in the trial court for a number of years. In 2008, a judge retired in the 9th District, and I was elected there. Since that time, I have considered over 1,700 appeals. I've written hundreds of decisions. I'm honored to have been endorsed by the Akron Beacon Journal, the Plain Dealer. I'm still waiting for the Elyria Chronicle. Don't know what they have to say yet. I've been endorsed by the Lorain County Sheriff, a number of other law enforcement in Summit County. This is a 4-county district, by the way. It covers all of Lorain County, Summit, Medina, and Wayne. And in the state of Ohio, we divide our appeals court districts in 12. So if you live in any of those counties, that is where a person would appeal to the Court of Appeals. I believe philosophically in a very servant-driven life, so I do that. I express that commitment both in the work I do in the court, but also in the greater community. I try to take all of my time and talent to also contribute to the community, and I see it's time for me to stop. So again, I thank you very much for having me here, and I appreciate your continued support.
We have one last representative, and that is for the office of the Congress, the 4th District. Congressman Jim Jordan has a prior commitment. He cannot be here with us this evening. And Janet Garrett has sent a representative, and so she will be speaking for 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on such short notice. My name is Natal Kapuscinski, and I am the daughter of Janet Garrett. Janet couldn't be here tonight. She deeply regrets not being able to attend this discussion, but on top of running a campaign, my mother is also working as a teacher. She has started this fall her 35th and final year of teaching, and she's also running for U.S. House of Representatives in Ohio's 4th District. She says that she's running for the same reason that she has served as a teacher all these years, because she cares about her community. Here are a few of Janet's top concerns for the state of Ohio. Education. She believes that education is the only equalizing force in an otherwise unequal society. She wants to end the budget cuts to our public schools. Economic security for everyone. Janet wants to raise the minimum wage and strengthen workers' unions. And finally, she wants to protect our environment, primarily our drinking water, from the illegal dumping of waste into our water supply. So if you share similar concerns as my mother, I hope that you will visit her website and learn more about her campaign. The website is janetgarrettforcongress.com. Thank you.
That concludes our forum portion of the program. We're going to take a short break. Please don't go away.
McGruff, the crime dog here. We've all heard of identity theft. Now I'm going to show you how those thieves do it. Watch. He's photographing her credit card with his cell phone. To learn how to protect yourself from identity theft, go to weprevent.org. Keep your identity to yourself and help take a bite out of crime.
My name is Antonio Barrios. I'll be the moderator for this particular session. First of all, I'd like to inform you that the forum will be moderated, obviously, by Mr. David Everdondo, Antonio Barrios, and Ms. Mary Santiago. So, the candidates will each have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Next, they will be asked 2 to 3 questions by the moderator, and then giving 1-minute answers. They will conclude with a 1-minute statement. The candidates will receive a list of possible questions that they have before the forum. So we are ready to begin. Before we do, I would like to thank Superintendent Mr. Tucker and Dr. Hall, who have made it possible for us to have a return of the UN models, students from Lorain High School that will be taking part. Thank you. Taking part, and I also want to mention Ms. Caitlin Girl, who is now in charge of running that program. It's a great program. The kids get a live opportunity to be involved in our politics. So we will begin with a 2-minute opening from Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrios, and thank you all for coming tonight. This is really a wonderful audience, and thank you to the CHIP committee. Let me say that I want to dedicate my remarks. Today is a Latina Equal Pay Day nationally. And so Latinas make about 52 cents for every dollar that is made by a non-Hispanic male. So Latinas have a long way to go to get full pay equity, and obviously I support that. Let me also say that for those of you who don't know me, I currently serve in the Congress. I'm the first member of my family to graduate from high school, the first to go on to college. By the grace of God, was elected to Congress many years ago, and now I'm the senior woman in the U.S. House of Representatives. And probably most importantly, I hail from the working class, and I haven't forgotten it. I dedicate my career for all people and building ladders of opportunity for people to move to the middle class. And it's a tough struggle. But even here in Lorain County, the unemployment rate is moving down. My priorities are economic security for America's families, educational security and affordable education for our young people, retirement security, including a sound Social Security, Medicare, and health care system for all, national security, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move forward, including care for our veterans, meeting the challenges of terrorism, energy independence for our country, and checking threats such as the Ebola virus, and finally, environmental security, and what could be more important here in our region than the health of Lake Erie, and we'll talk a bit more about that. Recently, we've been a part of helping to bring over $5 million to Lorain County Community College for workforce development. We make sure the port here is dredged so that the Port of Lorain can thrive. We have worked on the systems to help Lake Erie clean itself up with our help, and we'll talk a little bit more about the NRG pipeline and what that means for Lorain County as the evening proceeds. And I thank you so very much for being here. I would enjoy your support on Election Day.
We will have an opening 2-minute statement from Mr. Richard May.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I am Richard May, and you know, when Marcy Kaptur was elected 32 years ago, our cities in District 9 are not better off today than they were 32 years ago. And I think few of you really believe that our cities of the 9th District, Toledo, Sandusky, Lorain, and Cleveland, are going to be improving in our next generation. And that is the utmost importance to us in this district. But I have proposals to fix this, and so that our cities can compete better with their suburban neighbors. In urban areas, a major problem is the crime and the urban poverty of culture of poverty, I should say. And my proposal to try to turn this around is for people on government assistance, if you are going to school, going to college, you're going to get a little bit more in your check for your productive behavior. If you have a child in school and this child's doing wonderful in school with great test scores and great grades, you get a little bit more in your benefits. And of course, if you stay out of the court system, you can get a little bit more in your benefits. You know, we are treating good families and paying them the same benefits as bad families that our police know only far too well. We need to change our cities so that people, the middle class, and business people will want to live and invest in the city of Lorain. And that is the most important subject for a Congress candidate in this 9th District. I thank you so much.
Now we will have one of our first student, Ms. Alvarado from the UN, ask the first question.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cadet Captain Donnie Alvarado from Lorain High School, JRTC, and my first question goes to Richard May. Both left and right state that our current immigration system is broken and needs to be reformed. How is it broken? And if it is broken, how do you propose to fix it?
You said university system? I didn't quite understand. I'm sorry.
Immigration system.
Immigration system, okay. And that was the second question on the list. You threw me, okay. The core thing we need to do is enforce the laws we have today. If, it takes too long to come to America in the legal fashion because it takes too many years, well, clearly we can fix that with modern technology and computer systems. We can speed up legal immigration, so that there's no longer that excuse for breaking the laws of immigration laws here. We need immigration. This is a nation of immigrants, but it's a nation of legal immigrants. And we need to enforce our law while, and encourage those legal immigrants to come to Lorain and come to Cleveland. Because as we see in our universities, as you will see in a year or two, we see foreign nationals come to our colleges. And they should be encouraged to stay here in Northern Ohio, to start their businesses here, to start their families here. And that's wonderful. And as a resident of the city of Cleveland, these people are my neighbors. And it's a wonderful thing. So thank you so much. Marcy, your turn.
I support a legal pathway to citizenship and am a sponsor at the federal level of the major bill for comprehensive immigration reform, as well as the DREAM Act. We have in the House of Representatives members who want to vote on those bills, but the Republican leadership has refused to bring up those measures for a vote. As a member, I want the opportunity to vote. The sooner the better. We have to have a legal system of immigration, but I also know that in our country, because of the pull of the economy, many, many millions of people have been trafficked here to work at sub-level wages, and they have no legal rights. What is being done across the Americas is wrong, morally wrong. And we have to confront the trafficking of labor as a central factor in this whole immigration debate. And we have to have legal rights for workers, whichever side of the border they live on. Because people are living in a gray world. They can't get regular bank accounts. They can't qualify for programs. If they're working and they get a check and they pay into Social Security and they're not citizens, they never get that money back. How does that build us any friendships from the countries where people are coming from? Just in the area of agriculture, we have a real problem with assuring legal passage for people here under contract where their rights are guaranteed. I believe we will not solve the problem of undocumented workers until we deal with the trafficking issue, which is very serious. Has my time run out? Because oh, sorry, okay. But they are bound together, and you can't solve one without the other.
Our other student moderator, Emily Shelton, will now ask the next question.
My name is Emily Shelton, and I'm a member of the Model UN at Lorain High School. And my question goes out to Ms. Capter. The terrorist group ISIS currently occupies large parts of Iraq and Syria. It has systematically executed prisoners of war, journalists, and many innocent civilians. ISIS's stated goal is to establish an Islamic caliphate beginning with the Middle East, how would you handle the situation?
I'm a member of the Defense Committee, so I spend a lot of time on issues like this. We provide the funding for our military. We also engage with other militaries around the world, and I think President Obama is trying as hard as he possibly can to build the kind of coalition that can win against this force, this terrorist force that the press has dubbed ISIS. And if we look at what is happening, ISIS is a manifestation of Sunni, which is one of the religious sects, Sunni outrage at the government of Iraq being set up in a way that preference was given to the Shia sect and the Sunni sect was left out. We have to recognize that that corrupt government, whose leader just stepped down, Mr. Maliki, was not properly constituted. And the hardest challenge we have is to meet this threat by a coalition of nations that represent different points of religious, cultural expression. And if we become the Air Force for Iran by bombing the Sunnis because we favor the Shia, America will become embroiled, runs the risk of becoming embroiled in a civil war, a religious civil war. That would be exactly the wrong decisions for this country. So let us hope, working with Turkey, with Jordan, with a very broad coalition, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and all of the rest, we're going to be able to put together a coalition that can really stop them. I have supported U.S. bombing, however, of ISIS to try to contain them as this coalition is put together.
Mr. May, same question.
Thank you so much. We are, threatened by ISIS. When we were attacked by Al-Qaeda, they hid in caves. Now we have an enemy that is out in the open in a territory the size of Belgium. And they're beheading journalists and Americans and English and whatnot. And they are daring us. And they're telling us they're going to come here to the cities of America. They're not going to come to farm communities for terrorist activity. They're going to go to a big city like the cities of the 9th District, to make their point that they do not care for Western civilization. And we need boots on the ground, while we must not be flippant with the lives of a young lady like yourself. We must go in with a plan to, win a war and enforce a peace like we did in World War II. When I say that bombing is not going to be enough and why we need boots on the ground, if bombing was enough, we would have lost World War II, because England would have lost the war before we entered. If you remember your history of World War II, bombing does not win wars, even with the advancements in armaments. It takes boots on the ground and the courage of young people to do the fighting for our freedom and our safety. And our safety is at risk. Thank you so much.
We will now go into the 1-minute closing. We'll start with Mr. May.
Thank you. I'd just like to bring up the issue of the national debt. When Marcy was first elected 32 years ago, the national debt was not yet quite $1 trillion. Today, it is going to become soon $18 trillion. It's not going to be our generation on the hook, knock on wood, that's going to have to pay that debt as we become weaker. You know, if America ever becomes weaker, we become less than the prominent military power, less than the prominent farming and agriculture power, the less than the dominant economic power. You know, it's like anything else. You are good for credit when you can pay the loan back. When they start to doubt that you can pay the loan back, that's when they want the money back. And it's not my generation, it's your generation and you that are going to pay that debt. You're going to damn us. You're going to damn us for when that time comes. And I'm going to do my utmost, and I have my entire adult life, to make certain that day for you will not come. And that's my promise to you. Thank you.
Congressman Kepler.
Well, it's quite different than when I was first elected, and there was 18% unemployment across the region that I came to represent. Unemployment has been going down. We've been creating about 250,000 jobs a month in our country on average every single month since President Obama has been president. We've been digging out of the most massive recession since the Great Depression, and that has not been easy. It has cost all of America for the mistakes of a handful of Wall Street banks that were truly greedy and imprudent in their behavior. The automotive industry, the rescue of the automotive industry has lifted this region. The natural gas discoveries in Ohio are bringing business to U.S. Steel and Republic Steel. If you think about the workforce development that is occurring, the GLIDE program, the new manufacturing initiative, and innovation initiative at Lorain County Community College, Lorain County, this region, is capturing the future by helping to educate and help young adults meet the market that is developing before us. Avon Lake Ford, the Ohio Assembly Plant, returning from Mexico, a miracle. And the NRG investing in the old GenOn plant over in Avon Lake and its potential with a natural gas line running through Lorain County if we properly structure that deal so that this community can buy into the future growth of that company. What an opportunity to capture some of those dollars related to natural gas development in Ohio. I very much want to be a party with working with people here to improve veterans care and veterans facilities in this region, as you know, including housing. And I look forward to the opportunity to continue to work with Lorain County and adjoining communities to really keep the progress going in this region. It has been hard won, hard fought, and every one of you have been a part of it. Thank you for who you are. Again, please vote this year and encourage your friends to do so. Election day is November 4th. Polls are already open, however, you can cast your vote now and be very grateful for your vote. Thank you so very much for coming tonight.
That concludes the portion on the Office for Congress. Next up will be Mary Santiago, who will be working with the Ohio representatives. We want to again thank you, the young cadet and Model UN, for having our young moderators with us. You want to give them a round of applause, please. Thank you.
We will start today, and please do hold your applause to after all the candidates have ended. Thank you. Today, my name is moderator Mary Santiago. I will give every candidate the opportunity to give a 2-minute opening. Then they'll have a 1 minute to answer the questions that are asked, and then a 1-minute closing. So today I will have I'll give you your opening statements, and then we're going to go with the 2 students to introduce themselves and ask the questions.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Representative Terry Boos. I have been your state representative for the past almost 6 years now. And I thank the opportunity for being here, and I thank the listeners that are watching this on TV to take their time to be educated on the issues and the candidates. I'm running on several different things here. First one being smaller government. We currently have the smallest size of state government that we've had in over 30 years. The second thing is lower taxes. We have lowered taxes by over $3 billion currently. Now I want to go just a step farther and talk about that $3 billion and let you know that every person that pays state income tax got the same equal cut that everybody else did. It doesn't matter how much you made, everybody got a 10% cut in their state income tax. And then I'd also like to talk about jobs. We have increased jobs significantly. Our unemployment rate is down. It's not near where we want it to be. But on the other hand, we're not just going out and throwing money, giving big tax credits and using stimulus money. We're doing it the right way. We're trying to grow it in the most, in the biggest area. So with that, I'd like to say a little bit about the committees that I'm on. I'm on Ag and Natural Resources, very important committee regarding oil and gas industry and the regulations that we've done there. And also it'll be very important in the future to the Lake Erie water and water quality. That'll also fall on that. And I'm currently vice chairman of probably the most important committee that we have in Columbus, and that is the Budget Committee. And with that, I think my time's up, and I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you. And make sure you do look at the timekeeper. She's looking at me.
Kind of hard to see.
Hi, my name's Matt Lark. I'm a teacher at Norwalk High School. My wife teaches upstairs from me, and I have 4 kids, not to mention all those kids I've taught for the past 23 years. Just to piggyback off of Mr. Booth, I think we have a difference in opinion about taxes. I want to talk about overall taxes. Now, in 2013, local government funds were cut by over 50% over a 2-year period. That money goes to fixing the roads, infrastructure, police, fire services. 50%. What did you get in return other than decreased services? Your local property taxes went up significantly. At the same time, the top 1% earners in the state of Ohio got a $6,000 per person tax break. The median income earner in Ohio got a $6 break. I don't call that even. And I'm against that kind of budget, and I will not vote for a budget like that. Also, school funding. Big difference between Mr. Booth and I. In 2013, $895 million were taken straight out of public schools and put into for-profit charter schools. I think that's fundamentally wrong. Not too long ago, not a single tax dollar, public tax dollar, went to for-profit charter schools. And I'm for bringing that $1 billion back to our public schools. I'll tell you what, you probably won't see a tax increase at the local level if we do that. Lastly, if you go online, I don't have time to talk about it in the last 20 seconds here, but I've spent a lot of time on a anti-drug program that involves getting kids hooked on outdoors activities like hunting and fishing. My district is the southern portion of Huron and Lorain counties, and my time's up, so I'll give it to Mr. Sherwin here.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this event, and thank you for allowing me to attend. It's nice to see all engaged people out here. My name is Bob Sherwin. I'm your Libertarian Party candidate for Ohio House District 57. Some of you may be wondering, what is a libertarian? We're the 3rd largest political party in the country right now, and growing. As far as my political philosophy, if you look at how our country was founded, it was founded on some very basic principles: civil liberty, religious liberty, and the notion that no human being is the master of any other human being. That, coupled with personal liberty along with personal responsibility, that's basically the libertarian philosophy. People ask me, what is my platform? Well, my platform is geared towards small businesses and working stiffs like many of us. We're the ones that get targeted the most with high taxes and high prices due to the devaluation of our dollar. Ohio is not as great as some people would say as far as our economic situation. We still lag behind a lot of other states in our unemployment rate and what's called our migration rate, meaning people leaving the state as opposed to people coming to the state. With states at the high end gaining people, and along with people comes revenue. And the more people you have and the more jobs you have, the less people have to be taxed because you have more revenue coming in. And what I see is really wrong with the country and the state right now is career politicians and partisan politics. It's destroying us. It doesn't seem like the two sides could get together on anything. Well, I'm not a politician. I'm a proud blue-collar worker. I'm a father, grandfather, stepfather, and concerned citizen. And the only reason I'm running is so I can leave a better Ohio for young people like these gentlemen here and out in the crowd, and bring people, jobs, and revenue back to Ohio instead of bleeding jobs, people, and revenue. Thank you.
Now we will have 2 questions only so that we can catch up with the time. So Mr. LeBoy, I'll let you ask the first question, please.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Cadet Major LeBoy from Lorain High School, Army LTC, and my question will go to Mr. Lark, I'm sorry. What is the Common Core curriculum in the state of Ohio? Does it apply to both public and private schools alike? And should it be embraced, modified, or rejected?
With respect to public schools, it applies to all public schools, okay? With respect to private schools, if they receive the voucher for the money, okay, then they need to teach Common Core, okay? So that's the difference. Now, private schools can opt out of that, okay, and some do. As far as my feeling on Common Core, I've talked to a lot of teachers, especially your elementary school teachers, and I've met very few that are in favor of Common Core, specifically because of the testing, the pressure it puts on the kids. And I'll tell you what, this Common Core seems like we're giving way too much too early to kids, and the kids aren't becoming masters of the basics, you know, addition, subtraction, multiplying, dividing, the 3 R's. For those reasons, I'm against Common Core, and I believe the best decisions for curriculum can be made at the local level by school boards.
Same question.
Yeah, I oppose Common Core. I know John Kasich has kind of embraced Common Core in the state of Ohio. Common Core is a top-down, one-size-fits-all education system, and it simply doesn't work. We've spent $30 billion a year for 40 years on the Department of Education, and our educational levels are stagnant. But what Common Core and other standardized testing does is it teaches our kids to pass a test, but it doesn't really teach them the knowledge that they need to remember this stuff. You know, we spend millions and millions of dollars to the federal Department of Education. Every dollar we send to the Department of Education, the state gets 11 cents back. Then out of every dollar the state collects, our local communities get 11 cents back. I think these choices should be left to the local communities, the local schools, parents, grandparents, because a lot of grandparents are really involved with the children now, the school boards, and the teachers. Thank you.
Same question, Mr. Booth.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to hear that my 2 challengers are against Common Core, especially since the superintendents of Lorain County have come out for Common Core. I have signed on to both bills that would abolish Common Core. I'm a firm believer that Common Core is one of the top-down, federal government controlled, down to state controlled, and takes away all the local control. I would also challenge my opponent, who's a teacher, to get his teachers to speak out. Part of the problem we're having fighting Common Core is the people in education are not speaking out against it. It's a storm waiting to happen. It will happen. The people will rise against it. I've been on 2 bills now to sponsor to eliminate it. Thank you.
I will give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and ask the final question.
Good afternoon. My name is Nelson Vieira. I attend Lorain High School, the Annex. And my question goes to Mr. Booth. 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld Ohio's voting laws, standardizing dates and times for voter recognitions and voting. Do you support their decision? Why or why not?
Well, thank you. The question, though, only covers part of their decision. I do agree with the standardization of the dates and times and days as when we can vote. What I disagree with is the amount of time that we have for early voting. I think it's interesting right now that we're holding this a roundtable the day after voting started. And that's my problem with early voting is we are sending uneducated voters to the polls. And I have a real problem that it's also costing, and everybody worries about how people get funded and where the money's coming from. It's costing elections to be much more expensive to get your education out as soon as possible. So I agree with standardized dates. I just wish they weren't quite so early. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question.
I think that voting rights are rights that everybody should have. And it should be made as easy as possible, everybody. And I agree with Mr. Booth on, you can't have too long of an early voting because there's a lot of candidate events coming up that people are going to see that have already voted. But again, the right to vote is a very important right and it should be afforded to everybody, whether it be mail-in, early, especially our young men and women overseas. We have to make sure that their vote counts. But I want to talk about one other thing real quick about voter suppression. Last year, the House and Senate both passed Senate Bill 193, and Kasich signed it into law immediately. That would have made it seriously difficult for any party other than the Democrats and Republicans to even be on the ballot in upcoming years. This was after some of us had already filed petitions to be on the ballot. We had to sue them in federal court, and we won a temporary injunction. And to me, this is it's not about me, not about my party. It's about you, the voters, and giving you choices. You don't have to just have two choices on the ballot. Thank you.
I disagree with the court's decision. I would have liked to seen voting last week. And in fact, what I'm particularly interested in is extending voting hours. Not everyone works first shift, folks. Some people work second shift. Some people work third shift. I know I did when I worked at LTV Steel in Cleveland. And I'll tell you what, I'm for extending the hours into the nighttime. So any opportunity, I think 5 to 6 weeks before is a fair amount. But I think we cut it a little short recently. Thank you.
That will conclude Ohio's House of Representatives 57th District, and I will ask David Orlando to come in for the 56th. Oh, I'm sorry, and your final conclusion.
Thank you once again for having this. I just want to kind of conclude this and talk a little bit about my experience. And you have an opportunity that you've invested 6 years in me down in Columbus. I've learned a lot. It's complicated. There's a lot to learn. And I continue to learn on a daily basis. But I ask for you to take that into consideration, that I have experience. If I say I want to do something, I know how to go about doing it. It's easy to sit up here and give false promises. You can promise just about anything, but you have to realize that you're only one of 99, and if you're in the majority or minority, it's awful hard to get something passed. I know the process. I can do that. I've been endorsed by just about every organization that promotes jobs, such as Chamber of Commerce, NFIB, and Ohio Manufacturers Association, and I'm also the only candidate that is endorsed by NRA. Thank you.
Same question. Your final minute?
Yeah, I want to be a citizen representative. I'm not beholden to any special interest groups, wealthy donors, unions. I would only be beholden to you, the citizens of District 57 in the state of Ohio. I want to make Ohio a better place for generations to come by creating jobs. Ohio has over 3,000 regulatory agencies, all taxpayer funded. Ohio has one of the most complex municipal tax codes in the country with over 700 taxing agencies, also taxpayer funded. And there's other things, but in this short amount of time, I see I have 30 seconds. So we need to cut through regulations. We need to reduce government even smaller at the state level and make government stronger at the local level. And, you know, rely on our small businesses. Government doesn't create jobs. People create jobs. And small businesses are one of the engines that drives the economy in Ohio and all across the country. So I'm just asking for you, you know, if you live in the 57th District, look at my website, check me out, and think about me on November 4th. Thank you.
Mr. Lark?
Huron County has the 4th worst unemployment in the state, and it's been like that since you took office, Mr. Boos. In addition, Lorain County's not much further behind. I do have a couple promises I would like to make to the voters, and if I don't keep them, you vote me out in 2 years, okay? First of all, I'm going to be a full-time representative. We have way too many issues to deal with. I will quit the job I love as a teacher. I've been doing it for 23 years. I will serve every day of the week except Sunday as your state representative. Mr. Boos has a part-time job. I think it requires it pays full-time, I'll work full-time. Secondly, I know this isn't my idea, I stole it from our candidate back there, Mr. Lundy. Monthly town hall meetings, I think are very important. Great idea, I'm to be your servant, not the other way around. I need to stay in contact with the citizens of the 57th. I need to have monthly meetings to do that. Finally, I will take ownership in my drug prevention program. That involves getting kids hooked on fishing and hunting, not on drugs. Please check out my website if you want to know more about that program. Thank you. Bye.
And that will conclude. Thank you so much, all of you.
Let us continue with our next roundtable. My name is David Arredondo, and I will moderate this roundtable. This is for the office of the 56th District, 57th? 55th of the state representative. It is currently an open seat, and we have two candidates, Mr. Nathan Manning, who because of work obligations could not be here tonight, and we have Mr. Brendan Mackin, Democratic candidate for this office. As one of the moderators of the panel, we have Noelle Pabon of Lorain City Schools, and she will introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Noelle. I'm from Lorain High. And my question is, what is being done? No, don't ask it.
You were supposed to introduce yourself.
I didn't.
What do you do? What grade do you
Oh.
What club do you belong to?
I'm in Model UN, and I'm in the 10th grade.
Thank you. Thank you. We're so glad to have the Model UN back in action at Lorain High School. So we will begin the roundtable with a 2-minute introduction from Mr. Brendan Mackin.
Thank you. My name is Brendan Mackin. I'm running for state representative for the 55th District, which encompasses Avon Lake, Elyria Township, Sheffield Village, part of North Ridgeville, Carlisle Township, and Grafton. And I'm running because I want to go to Columbus and fight for the residents of the 55th District to promote economic policies that create growth and opportunity for everyone in the area, that create policies that properly fund our public schools and provide for affordable college education, and for government accountability and transparency. Currently, I see it, we have 3 problems in Columbus in that we have public tax money that's going to for-profit charter schools. We have an entity created by the Republicans for Jobs Ohio that takes tax money from the liquor sales and funds a private corporation, but there's no accountability as to that in the law. They wrote it so no one can verify or check out how that money is spent. And lastly, they claim that there's tax cuts and how great that is for the state, but all that has done is push the tax burden down to a lower level and increase property taxes. A little bit about myself is I'm currently the city prosecutor for the city of Stowe and assistant law director. For the past 3 years, I've been an assistant county prosecutor in Cuyahoga and Lorain County for 12 years. In addition to that, I'm a major in the Ohio Army National Guard, and I spent 14 months on active duty with service in Iraq. And from my training and experience, I think I'm the one who's best qualified to go to Columbus. I believe in finding solutions to problems, not adhering to an ideology, and by working together through business, government, schools, vocational training, and labor unions, we can find solutions to the problems that are facing this state.
Thank you. And so we will begin. Please hold your applause until the roundtable is concluded. Thank you. Now, we will begin the questions with Noel.
What is being done by the current legislature to redesign the existing process of drawing congressional, state senate, and state house district lines? What would you propose be done?
Thank you, Noel. Currently, nothing is being done. There's a lot of talk. There's talk about creating different agencies and how the districts are gerrymandered. And I believe that the districts should be what they call contiguous, compact, and reflect the regional interests of the area. And the closer you have it to a 50-50 district is better. You have more honest debate between the candidates rather than having a safe district. Now, it's inevitable there's going to be some districts that are more one party than another party, but there should be lively debate and competition in as many districts as possible. There shouldn't be districts that stretch from, like I'll say Mr. Lark's district stretches from the east side of Lorain County all around the south to the west side of the county. My district is very compact. We have a competitive race. That's how it should be, so it gets the views of most of the citizens who live in that district, and that the people aren't going to the extremes to get the support.
And now question number 2, Noel.
What is the status of the Common Core curriculum in the state of Ohio? Does it apply both public and private schools alike? Should it be embraced, modified, or rejected?
Thank you. Currently, the Common Core has been enacted, and it's being implemented in the state. And of course, when you implement any new laws, there's going to be problems with it. Things are going to develop that need to be fixed and changed. I'm in favor of the Common Core. Currently, as for private schools, it does not apply to them. There was a House bill to end their exemption from adhering to Common Core, but currently it doesn't adhere to the Common Core. For private schools such as Catholic schools, the Cleveland Catholic Diocese has decided to follow the Common Core as much as practicable. They use it as benchmarks so they can see how they compare to the public schools. And I am in favor of the Common Core. I'm sure people have seen math tests that have been on Facebook, and they see that there's this strange mathematic formula for how they find the solution. Well, after I talked to my brother, who's an engineer at NASA, he said this is actually good. It's easy to learn, how to add up numbers in a column. That's good. But the way that they solve it, they teach this different way of solving it. It's teaching how to solve a problem and the different methods of solving a problem. And it's a precursor to getting them into algebra and calculus. Once it's explained to the person, it's understandable. Even I could do it, and I'm a lawyer. I wasn't a mathematician or engineer. But once that is taught to the students, they should be able to do that and use that in their future if they want to go on and get a degree in technology or engineering.
And now we have a 1-minute closing statement from Mr. Brendan Mackin.
Thank you. In conclusion, we need to work together to find solutions to the problems facing Ohio. And I think I'm the one who's best qualified to do that. From my Army training, from my experiences as a lawyer, from my Army training, I graduated from the Army's Command and General Staff College. And that's what staff officers do. The commanding officer is presented with a problem. Everybody enters a problem with their preconceived ideas of what the best solution is, but you have to evaluate all the different factors and circumstances that go into the problem and finding a solution. I want to promote initiatives that encourage cooperation between business and labor and schools and promote vocational training and training through labor unions, which is often forgotten about. This way it provides the employees that are needed for businesses in the future. Government should provide a fair and level playing ground between labor and manufacturers. As we've all seen last year in Tennessee, government got involved in a dispute, or not even a dispute. Volkswagen wanted to have a UAW contract, but government officials got involved and said things that were lies and prevented an agreement that the Volkswagen and the labor unions actually wanted. Government should be a fair and level playing ground, not take sides between business and labor. Thank you.
And that concludes our roundtable for the 55th District House of Representatives seat. Thank you very much.
Again, my name is Mary Santiago. I am the moderator for this Ohio State next step here. I will let Ms. Brianna introduce herself in a minute and ask the first question, but first I will have each member say their 1 minute or 2 minute opening, please.
Should I use this or this? All right, thank you. Hello, my name's Marcus Madison, and I'm running for the Ohio State Senate on the Democratic ticket. A little bit about myself. I'm not a career politician. I don't come from a family of politicians. I come from a family committed to service, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in this race. Currently work with Big Brothers Big Sisters, where I've had the chance to work with children and families here throughout Lorain County every single day to really help them reach their full potential. Been with that organization for the past 8 years, something I'm very proud of, and it's something that I've had a really good chance to really see the impact in children and families' lives here at home. I also currently serve on the Elyria City Council. I've been there for 5 years, working on behalf of working families and children. I'm in this race because the voices of our friends and neighbors are being shut out of the democratic process by special interests and corporations and individuals who want to keep things just the way they are. That's why I'm in this race. I truly believe this state deserves to be a state of opportunity where everyone gets a chance to get out there and to make a difference. Earlier today, Republic Steel laid off 105 employees. These individuals are going to have to go back to their family members and try to figure out what are they going to do to make ends meet? How are they going to continue to move forward? The philosophy at the top is let the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and everyone in the middle, you're simply on your own. That's not the Ohio I want to represent. That's not the Ohio I want to fight for. I'm in this race to stand up for regular Ohioans and to be their voice in Columbus. Thank you.
Opening statement, Representative Manning.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Chip, for hosting this evening. I'm a lifelong resident of Lorain County. My late husband and I raised our 2 children here, and I'm very fortunate to have 2 grandchildren that live nearby. I am a retired school teacher of 37 years, taught 2nd and 3rd grade, and have been serving as state senator representing all of Lorain County and all of Huron County for almost 4 years now. And 2 to 3 days, I'm usually in Columbus. The rest of the time, I am in the district. And while I'm in the district, I like to meet with people and find out what their concerns are and also what their suggestions are. Also, I like to visit the schools and meet with students and the teachers. And also, I spend a lot of time touring different businesses. While doing those, I come up with many of the ideas that I have passed legislatively bipartisan. And some of those are, one, I have taken regulations away from businesses, so businesses have not left the state of Ohio. And because of that, they have been able to expand and hire more people. I've also worked with U.S. Steel and have managed to pass legislation that has allowed for stamping of the steel so we know the origin of the steel, so that that will alleviate some of the illegal dropping that we have. Also, I passed Narcan, which is a nasal spray that will bring people back to life that are ODing on heroin. And that was a pilot program that we offered in Lorain County, still going on, and have had such success by saving over 40 lives now in the Lorain County that it has gone statewide. So those are some of the things I've been doing since I've been in Columbus for the last 4 years. Thank you.
Now, Brianna.
My name is Brianna Nethers, and I am part of the Model UN. My first question goes to Mr. Madison. Some proponents on the right would like Ohio to become a right-to-work state, while the left, including unions, are against it. Where do you stand on this issue? Is Ohio headed in this direction?
When it comes to right to work, I don't support it. I've been very vocal about this from the moment I decided to run for office. I believe that our unions are very critical and vital to the work that we can accomplish here in this district. My mom is a part of the union. I come from a union family, and one of the reasons why I have an opportunity to sit here before you today is because of that union background and the union family that gave my mom the opportunity to not work 2 to 3 jobs, but have one good paying job so that I can pursue my own passion to stand up and commit myself to service. So when it comes to right to work, I don't support it, and if honored to serve in the Ohio State Senate, I will never stand up and vote against our unions here at home. I think they're critical, they're important, and I will stand with them because I know it's going to be good for working families and children here at home. Thank you.
Same question?
Same question.
Okay. I will not support right to work, and I do not see it moving in the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Next question. What is the status of Common Core curriculum in the state of Ohio? Does it apply to both public and private schools alike? Should it be embraced, modified, or rejected? Representative Manning.
I'm happy to talk about that, being a teacher. We have had state standards in for the early 90s. When I came in, we didn't have any state standards at all. So this is just state standards that are taken to another level. They were benchmarks. We have made some changes in the state standards just in June from hearing what people had to say about that. Some of the changes that we made was to make sure that everybody realized that the curriculum is decided by the local school districts. The curriculum does not play a part in Common Core. One of the other things we've set up is a bipartisan group made up of parents and teachers that will look at every state standard to see if they're ones that we are happy with and feel comfortable with. The test is different than the state standards of the Common Core, and I do have some issues with the PARCC testing as far as the length of the test, and those are the kinds of things that I would like to deal with when we get back into session. Thank you.
Same question.
Well, thank you. Common Core was developed to really help our kids compete on in this global economy. Most districts throughout the state have already begun to implement parts of that. Superintendents here in Lorain County, they support it, and I think the role of a state senator is to support the voices of those in their districts. So I would stand with them in supporting that. But Common Core just isn't the only issue we're tackling here in the 13th district. We've seen over $14 million cut to our local schools. We've also seen that charter schools and the amount of funding that has been taken away from public schools following those kids to that particular school. And we really have to start tackling the way that we fund education here, not only in the 13th district, but across the state of Ohio. So I think those are other issues that we have to talk about. I think they're critical, and if we don't have those conversations, our kids are going to continue to fall through the cracks, and we can't afford to let any of our kids fall through those cracks. Thank you.
Now we're going to, hold on to the mic, we're going to go into our final minute, and we'll conclude the session.
Oh, did you do the question here or no?
We had 2 questions each, correct? 2 questions.
Oh.
Now we're just ending.
Oh, perfect. Well, my name's Marcus Madison. As I said, I'm running for the Ohio State Senate. Moved out of passion to serve this district. I ran for city council when I was 21, took office when I was 22. Moved out of passion because I saw that there was a need we needed to stand up and make sure that people in my own community had someone that was going to stand up for them, not some of the time, but all of the time. That's why I'm in this race. This race to me is about creating opportunity, making sure your voices are heard, and making sure that regular Ohioans have a seat at the table.
Thank you. 1 minute, Representative Ranning.
I have a proven record of getting things done. I have been endorsed by both sides. The business side has endorsed me, NFIB, Chamber of Commerce, and also I've been endorsed by labor. Some of the labors I've been endorsed by are the UAW, the AFL-CIO, the Ohio Education Association. Those are just some of them. I've also been recently endorsed by the Chronicle. I was a teacher. I was a small business owner. I have been chair of the Senate Transportation for the past 2 years, and I ask for your support on the day that you vote. And my name is Gail Manning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that will conclude this session.
And this is our roundtable for the seat of County Commissioner for Lorain County. Our two candidates are to my right, Mr. Tom Williams, who is the current County Commissioner, and excuse me, to my left. To my right is the Democratic challenger, Mr. Matt Lundy. And we will introduce our student, who will have Robert Osorio introduce himself.
Thank you. My name is Robert Osorio. I'm attending Lorain High, and I'm in National UN.
And thank you for being with us tonight, Robert. So we will begin the roundtable with a 1 minute opening statements. We'll begin with Mr. Williams.
1 minute? I thought it was 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, excuse me, the 2 minutes, I'm sorry. 2 minutes with Mr. Williams. You would take.
Thank you. I would need to move real quick on that. Hi, I'm Commissioner Tom Williams. I am your Lorain County Commissioner, and I'm running for re-election. You know, when I came here 4 years ago, I made promises to you, and the promise was I was going to address issues in county government, such as taxes being imposed, $14 million of your taxes were collected without your say, ACLU filing complaints against the Board of Commissioners for secret meetings, and deficit spending. Let's fast forward till today. As your county commissioner, we've added deputies, our budget's in the black, and we're maintaining services, and we did it without raising your sales tax. Now, if that didn't impress you, maybe this will. As a Republican commissioner, I work for everybody. And earlier this week, I got endorsed by 2 executive central committee members, you ready for this, of the Lorain County Democratic Party. These are Democrat leaders that came out to support me. Jim Sloan from Elyria stated, I have done more for families than the 2 Democratic commissioners. Harry Williamson from Lorain stated that I have brought integrity and honesty back to the county government. As your commissioner, I have a proven record, and I am asking for your support and your vote, either if you're voting early or on November 4th. Thank you, and again, I'm Commissioner Tom Williams.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to thank Chip for hosting this event here today, and I do want to stress up front that Matt Lundy values and embraces diversity. I know that I work for you. I've been accountable to you. I've held over 70 Lundy Listens town hall meetings in my 8 years as a state representative, and I've been elected and re-elected in a 50-50 district, evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, because voters know that I believe in working together. And we worked well together in Columbus on many projects. We can get things done there, and we have. We worked together to pass the largest property tax break to help our seniors. We passed a 2-year college tuition freeze to help our students and their families. We also worked to invest $2.5 billion into building new schools in this state so our students could be in new classrooms and so we could put unemployed Ohioans back to work. I also believe that we must always work together on tough projects, and one of those projects was actually bringing jobs from Mexico back to Lorain County to Avon Lake to the Ohio Assembly Plant at Ford. We all celebrated that one together. I kept my promise not to raise taxes in Columbus, and I will not impose a sales tax or any tax without a vote of the people. I want to stress to you that I'm not afraid to stand up and fight. I fought against the sale of the Turnpike. We won that one. I fought against the privatization of our prisons. We won that one too. And in Columbus, the Tea Party tried to defund the Hispanic Latino Affairs Commission, and we won that fight too. Columbus has prepared me well to serve as your Lorain County Commissioner. We need to stop the confrontations. We need to have more conversations. We must work together to find common sense solutions to the challenges we face in this county. I'm going to the Commissioner's office to lead, not to follow. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's work together.
Thank you. And the first question will come from Robert.
The Lorain County Probation Department is currently housed in the old courthouse, but there are some concerns about moving it. What is your solutions to this problem? For Mr. Williams.
Great question. This is something that's going in the news right now. And what I believe and what I've stood up for is we need to make it a true center of justice. What I mean by that is we need to put the adult probation into the 5th floor of the Justice Center, and we need to have one area where all our justice center, our justices are. What we do by that is we actually have one security checkpoint. We only have one building, and we're not maintaining multiple facilities. Now, I've worked with the commissioners. I went over and I reached out to the judges. Unfortunately, having 3 panels, or 3 members on the Board of Commissioners, we had 3 different viewpoints. And we're going through litigation. At the end of the day, I think this is what's going to happen, Robert. The judges are suing us. We're going in front of judges, and the judges are going to rule that we have to move them to the 5th floor of the Justice Center. Why is that? Because when the Board of Commissioners sue judges, judges win. Plain and simple. Don't have to believe me. Look at the case history on it. So why spend money on attorneys to fight a case that we're going to lose?
Well, Robert, thank you for that question. This has become a legal dispute. The only people who are smiling about it are the attorneys making all the money. There's a budget process that takes place when we work with the judges as a county commissioner, and I don't think you develop a good rapport with the judges when you refer to them as thugs in robes. That's not a healthy process. There's been discussion about working with the 5th floor. You're looking at more than $3 million there. The judges have said that they want to contribute, be a part of it, $900,000. Sure, you can bond it, and you can also have more debt that you need to service. There is no question that the old courthouse is in need of repair, badly in need of repair. We have employees that are working in conditions that they should not be working in. That needs to be addressed immediately. And we need to keep the courthouse viable, though. We need to find a way to keep our courthouse in place. This has simply become a legal matter, and it's only going to be resolved by the courts.
The next question is, over the past 2 years, Lorain County transit routes have been drastically cut. How likely is it the service will be further cut or even eliminated totally? What can be done to preserve any service at all?
Okay. I'm starting? Okay, thank you very much. Well, first off, it's important to point out about 13% of our residents in the county simply don't have a car, so public transit would be of great help to them. I propose what we need to do is build public-private partnerships. Foundations, hospitals, and colleges, they all have a vested interest in making this possible. We also need to start these campaigns much earlier. I propose that we need an election advisory panel made up of accountants, marketing professionals, finance professionals, and year-round be strategizing and raising money for these initiatives that come up. There's federal matching dollars out there that we're losing out on all the time. This county has lost $5 million, on the verge of losing $10 million that we should be using. Other counties are getting our money for their transit system. We need to promote how we can make the money grow, and that's how we can make it grow, by putting money on the table and securing those matching federal dollars. This should be a county-wide initiative, starting with viable routes, and then we can grow from there.
Well, he's talking about $5 million that has been lost. Well, in order to get that $5 million, you need to put $5 million up to get it. It's a dollar-for-dollar match. So basically, you have to raise taxes in order to get that $5 million. Now let's go back to the problem. They continue to go through and they put the same levy on year after year after year. Where do we need transit? We need transit in the city of Lorain. We need transit in the city of Elyria. We also need transit in Oberlin because they want it there. So why not go with a district route, what's in the city of Sandusky is doing in Erie County, and actually have it where it's set up in Lorain, Elyria, and Oberlin, and then we can work with the county to do a commuter route. Start off small and then grow big. The biggest criticism of individuals down in the south, or even in Avon Lake and North Ridgeville, is people don't utilize the bus. When they see the buses, there's no one in there. Why go through and pay for a service if it looks like no one's using it?
They're 1 minute. We're going to go into our 1 minute closing. So, flip a coin.
Okay. I guess I'm your county commissioner. I have a record. Taxes haven't gone up. The budget's in the black. We added additional deputies. And again, we are not raising the taxes. I believe that people know how to spend their money better than government officials. As your county commissioner, my opponent wants to go out and he wants to put multiple levies out there. He believes that you should put every levy up there, which is going to cost the county money, by the way. And he wants them to say, well, if we get lucky, we pass one. How about if we look at the levy and don't duplicate services that the state's already providing, so we're not taking money away from you? I'm a single father. I have sole custody of my kids. I've worked here as a county commissioner. This is my only elected position in my entire career, the only one I ever ran for. I don't go from one position to the next. I'm not a career politician. I'm an electromechanical engineer, and I use that engineering background to solve problems in the county, and I'm asking for your support and your vote.
Well, we have a heroin epidemic in this county, and I would urge all of you to support the crime lab so we can get the drug dealers off the streets and away from our kids. Let me stress my Columbus experience has taught me well. Now I'm prepared to bring my public service here to Lorain County as a county commissioner. I believe that we must work together. I will continue to hold town hall meetings. I believe it's not about a Democrat idea or a Republican idea. It's about a good idea. I believe in the county work ethic. All we need to do is stress workforce development, match workers with the job opportunities. Commissioner Matt Lundy believes our county succeeds when we all succeed, not just a few. We have great potential. We will harness that potential to grow jobs, improve the quality of life, make this county a better place for our children and for the next generation. I am asking for your vote on November 4th. I'm State Representative Matt Lundy. I'm ready to lead as your new Lorain County Commissioner. I'm the positive choice in this campaign. I'm running a positive campaign for a positive change.
And that concludes our roundtable for county commissioners. And now Mr. Tim Carrion, the president of CHIP, will give a closing statement.
2 minutes. I will keep it to 2 minutes. Thank you. Just as CHIP is called to promote the political process, we're all called to get involved with the process. I applaud you all for taking the time to educate yourselves so that you're prepared when you get to the polls. And I want you to remember that early voting has already begun, and you can vote at the Board of Elections during select times until Election Day on November 4th. I'd also like to thank the candidates and other speakers for sharing with us tonight. I'd like to thank CHIP's Political Action and Membership and Events Committee for collaborating and coordinating this event. A big thank you to our 3 moderators. I sincerely appreciate Lorain City Schools Model UN, JROTC, and the Key Club students for assisting us with the roundtable session. I think it's very important for you to be engaged at this early age, and I applaud you for that. I'd also like to thank the volunteers, Juanita and Pablo, our timekeepers, Elizabeth Soto and Angie, who greeted you all as you walked in, and Ray Santiago for managing the sound for us. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Lorain City Schools, WEOL, El Centro, and all of our other community partners for playing a role in making tonight a big success. And I appreciate you all being here tonight for our 15th annual Candidates Night. Hope you all have a safe drive home. Buenas noches.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools, TV 20 WLCS.
To purchase a high-quality copy of the program you just viewed, please call Lorain City Schools Television at 282-8400.